Hello, everybody. This is Carlos Febres-Cordero, and today I am going to be presenting my final project on Fun Home. And I find that the title for this little presentation I think is fitting, broadening my horizons via Fun Home. And yeah, I think that that's the main thing that I take away from reading this text before I get into kind of like what I wanted to focus on and what I wanted to learn more about is that I came into it with an open mind, and I came out of it with an even more of an open mind, or I could say at least I'm a little more educated. So yeah, just kind of getting into it a little bit. Why I chose Fun Home, like I said, Fun Home was an opportunity for me to learn more about the plight of members of the LGBTQ community. Like I myself am a straight male, so again, my experience, I find that I can get numerous amounts of different forms of media that can relate to my experience. And since I only know what I know based on my experiences and what my in my life. Fun Home, like I said, was an opportunity for me to learn more about Allison's life and how she was able to deal with her personal journey and her family dynamic, which was another thing that kind of intrigued me about Fun Home was that um, she obviously had siblings. Her mother and her father were very, very talented individuals, artistically talented as well. And obviously the fact that her father was sort of living a double life, he himself was a gay man, a closet gay man, and Allison kind of discovering his secret life whilst also figuring out where she lies in the world, I think was something that stood out to me and something that I wanted to learn more about. And obviously, like I said, Allison's personal story, right? All this kind of ties in together. I'm learning about a new way of thinking, a new way of experiencing relationships, while also diving into this personal story, this autobiography, if you will, kind of foreshadowing into what I'm going to talk about next. But one of the first things that I took away from my research when trying to learn more about Fun Home was the distinction of an autobiography versus a memoir. Now, based on the research that I made, um, Fun Home operates the majority of the time like an autobiography, where you're usually getting Allison's thoughts whilst also her retelling events from her childhood, right? As we see in the image that I presented right there, that's the perfect example of what we're talking about here, right? You see Allison having her own thoughts for us, the reader, to kind of stick to ourselves, and then she gives us the context of a flashback or a memory of hers with her father, right? So that's one thing. But then there's the issue or the idea that Fun Home also sort of acts like a memoir. And the reason why that is because when Allison is retelling the accounts of her father, that pretty much almost sounds like it's from a memoir, and that's backed by an article that I found called "The Space Between a Narrative Approach to Alison Bechdel's Fun Home" by Robin Warhol. And Robin Warhol kind of confirms this in her paper, where she makes a distinction that Allison is retelling her father's life, and therefore it kind of counts as a memoir. But traditionally speaking, it's more like an autobiography. And I think that narrative choice that Allison decided to go with, again, it just ties into a new perspective, a new way of storytelling, at least for me. And I never really found this when reading any other comic. So it was, other than maybe Art Spiegelman's Mouse, I think is what is the only other comic that I can think of that kind of is an autobiography while it also being a memoir. And that's another reason why Fun Home is as great as it is and why I enjoyed it. The next one that I want to talk about right here is the power of references. Now, the power of references or references in general, is something that I actually noted pretty early on when I was reading Fun Home. I was really impressed by Allison's writing skills and the fact that she was able to make these references, but it also connects to the overarching story that she's trying to tell, whether it be about her life or her father's. And this image right here that I selected was one of the first couple images and references that I came across when reading Fun Home, and it still to this day stuck with me. And why I think references is important, why I think that there is power in that, is that it adds another level of understanding and connectiveness, and I think attention retention between the reader and the author. For me, when I came across this particular reference, I recognized it right away, and it was clever. It made sense with like what you see with Allison, playing, well, Bruce playing with Allison right here, and he's like lifting her up in the sky. And you can kind of see that Allison is technically, supposed to depict Icarus here, and I for me, it's just good writing plus good imagery plus good writing again and good storytelling, and for me, I think that just grounds the experience more, and I feel more immersed. And I also find that references also create a barrier of entry for people. While it also may create a situation where if you miss the reference, it doesn't hit the same, I would say. But I think that for those that do like those little tidbits, when you find them, it adds like more to the pen or to the page that you're reading. So I found that to be very compelling. And then finally, I don't think it's fair to not talk about the role of gender in literature in Fun Home. I know I'm putting this kind of towards the end, and probably should have put it towards the beginning, but for me, I found that, like I said, my experiences are their own, in seeing that just how important it is to kind of talk about these situations and the role of gender for anybody in their life, whether they're a grown adult or whether they're somebody like Allison, who in this case she's developing, right? She's growing up. And for me, the perception of Fun Home before I even read it, and when I saw like the video that Professor posted where she's kind of giving us a little preview of what Fun Home was going to be, I'll be honest, I thought that Fun Home was just going to be strictly about gender and everything, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I do find that knowing that Fun Home kind of dives into those things, but even more, like family dynamic and, living in a house filled with artistic people, and basically like you have every family member in the house kind of doing their own thing, artistically speaking. And I find that, the role of gender in Fun Home, while it's obviously being one of the more prominent themes, if not the most prominent theme, it didn't, for the best way I can describe it is like, it goes back to the barrier of entry. Fun Home was a 2006 bestseller for the New York Times, and it was able to transcend the mainstream as a comic and as a form of gender identity literature, right? It was able to cater to that audience and depict the experiences accurately, right? And honestly, while also bringing in a bunch of people, a crowd or audience, if you will, that may or may not relate to it all the way, but it was still inviting enough and a good enough experience when you're reading that it was able to captivate somebody like myself, who, like I said before, out of just pure life circumstances, I don't know how, I can't say that I understand how Allison must have felt growing up, but now I can at least get a little more info, and I can be more empathetic towards people of the LGBT community. I'm trying to also like explain this without trying to insult anybody. Like I said, I'm just being as honest as I possibly can. But that's what I took away from reading Fun Home. I obviously, we all read it ourselves in this course, and I think that we can all kind of feel some type of a connection to it. And yeah, I really enjoyed being part of this course, and I wish each and every one of you nothing but the best. Thank you.